So-called Underbelly of LinkedIn. We're joined by Sue Parker, LinkedIn expert, and also from Dare Group Australia. Nice to see you. You well?
Good morning. Monday morning.
Monday morning. We are here bright and early. What is the underbelly, the secret underbelly of LinkedIn?
Well, it's not chopper read per se,
No.
but there is implications of LinkedIn jail. And believe it or not, there is such a thing as LinkedIn jail. When I refer to the underbelly, LinkedIn has so many wonderful, wonderful things about it, but there's a little few seedy, naughty things that people do. And I call it the underbelly. It's not what LinkedIn does, it's what members do.
And what do? They
try to gain visibility and hack the algorithm with some pretty underhand things.
Right.
It's against all of these things which I'll talk about are against the LinkedIn user agreement, and LinkedIn absolutely abhor it and do not condone it whatsoever. But unfortunately, the platform with over 10 million people in Australia, everyone wants to get a bite of the LinkedIn pie
So
of cherry.
what's the benefit of doing it?
Well, ostensibly, it's to gain visibility, to gain ostensible influence, and that is done by three areas: engagement pods, automation, and paid likes and followers.
What is engagement pods? I can guess the other two, but what's that?
Sure. Engagement pods are a system where people band together, either manually or automatically and electronically, to like and comment on each other's posts.
Right,
so
right.
it's like a secret underbelly.
Oh.
No one actually wants to admit that they do it,
Right.
but they do it. And the perverse incentive is to gain visibility, look as though you are an influencer.
So it builds engagement essentially. So it's a group of people coming together trying
within
to
the
engage.
actual pod.
Right.
And what actually happens is it damages the personal brand, because you might get, say, 30 people in an engagement pod, for example. They're all told to like and comment on each other's posts. But what happens is, not only does the algorithm pick up that sequence and start to penalise it, because it is against the user agreement and machine learning picks up that, but their brand suffers. People can see that everyone's commenting on the same crap in the same way, the same sequence.
So is that also connected then to automation? Like
Yes,
when I think
can
of
be.
automation, I think of just automatic responses. How does one, not that we want to tell people, but I didn't even think it was possible to set up an automated response to a comment?
Yes, there is. It's a thing called LemPods. It's, again...
So is it like a third-party plugin that people use?
Yeah, it's a Chrome plugin,
I
absolutely.
see.
And so you've got manual pods, which are dangerous enough as it is, because it damages the brand and the algorithm and looks quite disingenuous, and people can pick it. But then you've got automated pod to pod, and you see this global, what I call the underbelly, this global swell of pods connecting with other pods. You will notice on various people's profiles, all they ever say is, great post, nice work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic, Aaron.
Yes.
Love your work, Sue.
Having said that, quite often when I go to reply to somebody else's, I don't know what to say other than amazing work. So I probably come across looking like a pod.
No, you don't. Don't worry about that. You don't. But the interesting thing is that what also happens with these pods, that's an automation, but with automation also falls into how they will often involve in click farms. There's a lot of services. Bottom line is, people want to get visibility on this platform. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So much great things
But
happen.
that leads to outsourcing, right? So the idea is, let's just hack it. Let's get people in from another country to basically to build it, to make it look like we're busy, to make it look like we have more followers, to make it look like we have more engagement. Because first came the followers, and then people went, well, you've got 100 million followers, but one person liked your comment. That's a fake. And that then quickly moved, and this is all platforms obviously, towards getting them to then like and engage with your comment. Now, what's the downside to doing that?
Well, it's a perverse incentive, a bit like the Cobra effect, but just back onto this outsourcing point, which I'm glad you've made, because people come to me as a LinkedIn specialist and saying, look, can you just do it for me? Can you take over my profile and just do it? I say, no, we can't. But there are a lot of companies that do that. And what happens when they take that over? What is the overarching desire and need? I want to get visibility, I want to get more traction, I want to get more engagement on my content, so I get more phones to ring and emails to ping.
Do you want me to tell you what I think the problem is?
Yep.
And tell me whether you agree. It's separation. So we follow people on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, because we believe that it gets us a step closer to knowing who they are. It helps to lift the veil on the Wizard of Oz. But if you start to notice that all of their posts are not done by them, but rather about them, as in instead of a selfie video, it's a professionally shot video. Instead of referring to them as me or I, it's as them. It starts to take away that feeling of closeness and also...
Well, yeah, and it's very much, the narcissism is across all social medias. But what you'll see is patterns of engagement. And look, people don't have the time to do it, but I do because I write about this in media.
Yeah.
But when you talk about outsourcing, what happens is people say, right, I want to get more visibility, whether they put crap content about their own selfie or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you'll get click farms. So the click farms are just automatically involving paid likes, paid followers. This is a massive issue. There are people even in this country, Aaron, that I've researched that are selling paid followers and paid likes. And it's part of a funnel system. So what the downside is, it's what I call a perverse incentive. It's a Cobra. Have you heard of the Cobra effect?
I have now.
It was done in colonial India, and the Cobra effect was very quickly the scenario where there was a plethora of cobras killing the town. So the government decided to put a bounty on it and get people to kill their snakes, bring them in, bang. So what happened was that worked, but then people were breeding the snakes for the wrong ways. They were breeding them to game the government system. And so what happened was the government said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to pay you. You're gaming it. You're breeding for the wrong reasons. So they cut it off, and apparently colonial India were overrun with snakes.
What a great idea that is.
Yeah. So the Cobra effect is when a solution ends up having unintended consequences, which is engagement pods, which is automation, which is paid likes and followers, and the unintended consequences creates a worse problem. And so the problem is, I see it.
Can you tell me what the worst problem is?
Oh, you'll get banned in LinkedIn jail.
Right. What is LinkedIn jail?
LinkedIn jail, there's many elements of it. What essentially it is LinkedIn ban you, suspend you, demote your posts. So for example, if you put in a plug-in tool to automate invites, you want to get, say, 1,000...
Why doesn't LinkedIn just detect that you're using that?
They do. LinkedIn have some pretty strong systems, but they, as the J curve, the supply and demand, the demand is, I want a game, I'm lazy, I want a game. So what happens is, if you, even as an individual, you just put in a plug-in tool, you send out 500 invites, LinkedIn can ban you or suspend you because they know you're breaching their user agreement.
Yes.
So that's what I call LinkedIn jail. The other aspect is where, and you see this with people who've gone and got, say, 50,000 followers, and I can promise you a lot of those may not always be genuine. And what happens is, because they're overseas followers, because they're in Nigeria or they're in Pakistan or God knows where, and they're not engaging on the post, so they may have bought something, what happens is their posts don't get visibility, and LinkedIn pick that up in the machine learning and they demote all posts.
Yeah.
So you will see...
So that's the end of that.
Yeah, so by virtue, you think someone with a large following will have large engagement, but then you start tracking this and it's very interesting. So that's LinkedIn jail. But it is a perverse incentive, and people please don't do it. Don't do engagement pods, don't do automation, and don't buy your paid likes because you look like a turkey.
Sue Parker, love having you in. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Aaron.
Before we go, let's take a look at the ASX to see how that is looking. Of course, from the close on Friday, we are expecting, according to the SPY 200 futures,